Viral debrief. Coming up. Hey 7-4 crew, welcome back. If you don't know me, my name's Kelsey. I'm a 747 pilot. My channel, 7-4 Gear, is all about aviation. Thank you so much to all of you in the 7-4 crew for continuing to send me videos that you want to see in this series. The easiest way to send them to me is through my Instagram, or you can send it on the 7-4 Gear forum, which is free. Just go in there and share what you want to see. All right, let's get into it. What? At first when I saw this video, I honestly thought it was fake, like something you see at a carnival, but apparently it's real. There is still one thing that doesn't quite add up, which I'll talk about in a minute. If you aren't familiar with this type of plane, it's called a Cirrus. It's a really cool modern aircraft. I've flown not this particular model, but a few models that they make. They're really modern, and normally you don't have to do the hand propping, which is what this guy is doing. You see him grabbing that prop and spinning it. That's the way old planes actually needed to be started, but this isn't one of those types of planes. Before we go any further, we gotta talk about the stupidity of what's happening here. He obviously isn't the first person to ever start his plane and then have the plane run away on him. People make mistakes, myself included. But the point I want you to notice is this. He starts the plane prop and then runs in front of it while it's coming at him. Don't ever run in front of a propeller while the plane is coming at you. That's a really easy way to die. Now let's talk about some of the things that don't make sense in this video. He said, and I read in the report actually because I thought this wasn't fake when I first saw this, but he said that he set the parking brake. Something that you should always do is have someone sitting there in the seat. It's not very hard to step on the brakes of a plane. It's kind of like a car brake, but there's two pedals. And you could easily get someone who knows nothing. I mean, you should have a trained pilot, but you could get somebody who knows nothing about planes and say, put your feet here on the pedals and then just stay like that until I get in the plane. And then you ask yourself, where could you put someone on that aircraft where they're on the plane but completely useless? You'd put them on the wing, not in the seat. You'd have them standing on the wing. One of the things that first caught my attention was the doors closing. The doors on this type of plane are like Lamborghini doors. They're actually really cool. But they do take some force to close them. They don't just close very easily. But as soon as the engine starts, you'll notice that both doors close. Take a look. Then you'll notice that something falls and then something else falls right here. And it's a person, which means that this person was standing up or doing something, but they weren't in the seat of the aircraft. I've flown the Cirrus several times. These seats are set kind of low. So you're not just gonna just jump up really quickly. I mean, maybe if you had like a Code Brown situation, that might happen, but I don't think that was the case here. And then you'll notice that both doors close, which means there's people sitting in both the left seat and the right seat. We don't know for sure that there was someone sitting in the left seat because you can't actually see a person there as they go by in the video. But we do know that there was someone on the right wing because they fell off the wing somehow. Even if that person knew nothing about aviation, it seemed like a grown person, you could tell them to sit there and put their feet on those pedals and not move. Pretty simple. Watch this again. He starts the engine, he runs in front of the plane, both doors close, he jumps on the wing and he struggles to get the door open, which again, it's a door, it goes up, it's pretty simple. I can promise you that if I can figure out how to open the door to this plane, it's not that difficult. But with the door open, he could have dove down head first and put his hands on the brakes. It wouldn't have been the best way to stop the plane, but it would have probably stopped the plane until he could come up with a better plan, like turning off the engine or something. I don't know for a fact that there's someone in the left seat, but it sure seems strange to me. In aviation, you're always having to think ahead about what's coming up, what could happen, and in this case, you had someone that was obviously an adult that was standing on the right wing. You could have just had them sitting there in the seat, and then in the event that the person in the left seat had some mental malfunction and couldn't step on the brakes, which is obviously what happened, then the person on the right seat could do it. All right, let's see what's next. Pretty stiff crab that he's in here. Correction. Nice. Nicely done. From the outside, it looked like a great crosswind landing. I can assure you though, for the passengers inside, it was probably a bit bumpy. The wings of the aircraft are rocking back and forth because the pilot is trying to keep the aircraft landing gear, the main landing gear, lined up with the center of the runway. And the speed of the wind is continually changing, so you're always having to continually make corrections. So it's good to have your hand on the throttle and one on the yoke, and you're going to be continuing to make those corrections to keep your main landing gear lined up with the middle of the runway. Now he's approaching this runway sideways. That's known as a crab. It's really the safest way and the only way to fly this type of aircraft with this type of wing design. With a smaller aircraft, a smaller general aircraft, you can do something called cross-controlling, which you basically dip one wing into the wind and you stomp on the rudder. So that keeps the plane going straight down the runway. That works for a smaller aircraft, but on these larger commercial aircraft with these types of wing designs, it's not the best way to fly these types of approaches. I mentioned this in that A380 video, that they didn't do great about flaring and landing in the crab. Look at what the pilot does here. They flare and they stay in the crab and then land in the crab. The momentum of the aircraft causes the plane to go straight down the runway. As you watch it again, you'll notice that the pilot gives some rudder input to get the plane straightened out a little bit, but not all the way. Look at the angle that they touch down, and after, it's just a totally normal rollout. Crosswind landings are definitely something that pilots struggle with as they go through flight school and actually when they become an airline pilot. It's a lot going on. You have both hands doing something, both feet doing something, and your eyes have to be watching everything, interpreting the information, and making the appropriate corrections very quickly. If you're a pilot, it's something that you'll just have to continue to practice as you go through your aviation career. Some landings will be great, some will be bad, but if you learn from all of them, it'll make you a better pilot. Something that is very important though, if you do want to become an airline pilot, there's something you need to know about these types of landings. If it's a great landing, then you obviously need to take credit for it for your superior airmanship. If it's a terrible landing, then you need to come up with a great excuse of why it wasn't your fault. I sneezed, the other guy sneezed, it was windy, it wasn't windy enough. You need to have a whole bunch of excuses loaded up because a real airline pilot always has an excuse for why it didn't come out amazing. All right. Let's see what's next. Oof. That's not easy to do. Man. That is not easy to smash a 747 in the ground that hard and cause it to bounce up in the air. I've talked about it in that Microsoft Flight Sim game that I was playing, that 747 doesn't bounce that easy, and that's because I've been through some horribly hard landings and never gotten back up in the air again. However, there are a few things about this landing that caught my attention. If you look at the smokestacks in the background here and where the smoke blows from when the tires land, it gives you the impression that the wind is actually blowing from left to right. But when you watch the plane land, you'll notice that the left wing is lower to the ground, which means they're actually correcting to the left because the wind was pushing them. But watch what happens when they bounce up in the air. The tail goes into the wind. The tail on a 747 is massive. I thought when I first started flying a 747 that in a crosswind it wouldn't be a big deal. We're flying this massive plane. A small crosswind won't mess it up. Not true. That rudder is so big. I talked about one of the first crosswind landings that I had on the 747. I was going into Miami and I flared, and then I put the crosswind correction on the rudder at about 20 or 30 feet. That's too high when it's a strong crosswind. And what happened is I put that rudder in, and with that rudder straightened out and lined up on the runway, which all looked good, we still had 30 feet left to go. With that strong wind, it started pushing us off the side of the runway. I think I had been flying the plane for, 2 weeks, so I didn't realize just how that would play out. It looks like the pilot steps on the rudder here once they're in the air. Not a lot, but there are two possible things that are happening here. One scenario, since we can't see the plane as it's out of frame as it comes in to land, is that when the plane hits the ground, and I literally mean hits the ground, the momentum is carrying the backside of the plane actually in that direction. Or the pilot is stepping on the rudder a lot more than it looks like in the video. The rudder is a thing that's on the back of the plane. It's what we use to move the backside of the plane left or right. We use it for crosswind landings and things like that. But it looks like the backside of this aircraft moved a lot to the left. Either way, this plane was not stabilized vertically or laterally when they came in on the approach. Something that I was taught in flight school and that I know that a lot of people get taught in flight school, and I think it's a terrible habit. But when you're in flight school, is you're bad at energy management, meaning you come in too fast. I used to come in fast all the time. You come in too fast, and then when you're about 40 feet off the runway, your instructor says cut the power. So you pull the power all the way back, and then you just kind of let the plane glide in and land. What happens is that if you get into that bad habit, when you get into jets, you'll do the exact same thing. And if you do that on a jet like this, and at 40 or 50 feet, you chop the power all the way back, your landing looks like this. I don't know what happened because I wasn't on the flight deck, but either way, there could have been a massive gust of wind that went away or something like that. I've been through some very hard landings. I've never seen a plane bounce up like this, especially this plane. I'm guessing that they chopped the power. They were coming at an angle, they chopped the power, and then they just basically fell out of the sky and bounced up in the air like that. It's really a hard landing, and it's very hard to do on a plane this big. All right, let's see the next video.
In case something was to ignite or happen, we'll have that. I'm on the engine. Yeah.
I'm not a cinematographer. As you've seen, I've got stuff that is all kinds of different poor ways that I do things, but I would know that if I was making a video of this, I wouldn't need to turn the phone 13 different angles to take a video of one engine. One of the things that I really like about this video that I want to share with those of you who are fearful flyers is you can see that this engine cowling, the outside of the engine, is blown off, right? And what that does is it creates a lot of drag. I don't know if the engine was shut down or what exactly happened there, but if you notice, there's all this casing that's around the outside of the engine, and it's not a big deal at all. It's kind of like driving your car with a big parachute. You just need a little bit more gas to get where you need to go. Something that happened to me kind of like this, not this dramatic, but something like this, when I was in flight school and I was doing my first multi-engine flight, the doors on the plane apparently needed to be slammed shut. I did not know that, and the instructor did not tell me that. So as soon as we rotated off the ground, the door flew open. Not excited to see a door fly open once you just pull off the ground. Now, the instructor said to me, and these pilots probably heard the same thing, is the first thing that you want to do is aviate, fly the plane. And so these pilots, with this engine doing whatever it's doing, that's something that they know. So if you're flying and you're in this situation and you see the part of the engine to the side like that, but the plane is still flying, there's nothing to worry about. Those pilots know their priority is to fly the aircraft. So they might need to add a little bit more power, which is what I needed with my door open. I needed to add some more power to get to the runway, but you got to the runway and it was no big deal. And that's why I was glad they showed the end of this video with them on the runway. So for those of you that are fearful of flyers, you could see everything worked out okay. The main thing that you want to focus on if you ever in this situation is listen to announcements from your flight attendants, listen to the announcements from your pilots, and don't flip your camera around 13 different times to film it before you send it to me. All right, let's see the next video.
Смотри, как тащит его, а? Блядь, что делается? Оценка. Ценил. Вот это ж 500. Садимся. 280. Руки на штурвал. 270. 260. 70 высота. 260. 60. 270. 40. 270. 270. Высота 30 метров. 270. 20. 265. 260. 255. 250. 240. Скоро. Снятый с упора. Газ
Someone sent this to me on Instagram and they asked me why they were flying so low to the ground when they were coming in on the approach. And I can't answer why they would do that, but there are some things and some strange techniques and some possibly bad habits that I want to point out to you, and hopefully you don't get in the habit of doing these things. First thing to note is watch the pilot's left hand. He's pulling the power back here. I personally think it's a bit strange that they're splitting up the power by pulling out the middle or the outsides, But I'm not an aerospace engineer, so I don't know why they would be doing that on this particular aircraft. There might be a benefit to doing it on this plane design, but generally you'd want to keep them all together. Another strange thing that caught my eye is this incredible cluster that they have on their already tiny windows. I have no idea what all this stuff is, but I hope it's something really cool like a laser, or that it needs to be up there because there's a lot of stuff. I made a joke during the Con Air Hollywood versus Reality that I did that I've never seen a pilot with a ton of trash on their dash. Obviously this isn't trash, there's some use for that stuff that's up there, but that's a lot of stuff to have on the dash. I don't know what all that is, and I'm assuming it needs to be up there. Obviously, he's got GoPros and other things that are mounted, but he's got something massive there in the middle. Anyway, I just thought it was funny because I've never seen that much stuff sitting there on the dash. Going back to the hands now. The pilot keeps taking his hands off the throttle and bringing it back onto the yoke. This is a bad habit to get into, especially if you need to add power quickly. That extra half second from getting from your yoke to your throttle could make the difference. I can't explain why they keep splitting the plane's throttles. I'm sure someone on here is going to explain to me in the comment section why that's good on this particular plane. On the 747, even when we shut down an engine, we pull the throttle back, shut down an engine, we bring that throttle lever back up and we keep them all in a straight line. Because let's say you have them back like this and you have the middle ones forward and these other ones to the side that are back. And all of a sudden you need to add full power. And you reach over quickly because your hand is on your yoke, you reach over quickly and grab just the middle and push it up. You could only push up 2 of your 4 working engines. If you know why they would do something like this, please let me know in the comment section. I don't know why, and I wasn't going to do a whole bunch of research to explain why a pilot would do this. It doesn't make any sense to me from a safety standpoint. Maybe there's something specific on this aircraft, which is why they'd want to do that. To me, it would make more sense to keep all of your throttle together and then just come in at the speed that you need to do it. So we saw him pull the power back early. Now he's adding power because he's low over these houses here. Not a big deal. Every pilot has done that. He does look a bit close to the houses, but it's hard to tell since I'm not in the plane. I did hear a 500-foot call out. That's a bit low for the distance that he is from the runway. The other bad habit that he could be developing, or maybe they are intending to do this, but they're coming in low, flat, and they're landing at the very start of the runway. If you have a malfunction and you're really limited on your options, you're increased your risk unnecessarily. If you haven't seen the video I did a while back of the plane that's coming in and they're trying to land at the very start of the runway and they misjudged it and they hit the side of the mountain there, that's possible that could happen. If you had an engine failure and you're aiming to land at the very start of the runway, you don't have a lot of speed or momentum. You have your landing gear out, you have your flaps out, you have everything set up to land, which means it's going to take a second or two to add more power. And if you've just lost an engine, you've lost a lot of power and added a bunch of drag. So by landing at the very start of the runway, you limit your options. If you like this style of video and you want to see me doing the same type of breakdown with air traffic control, you're going to want to watch this video here. And if you want to see a little bit more of a fun video, you're going to want to watch this one up here. I look forward to hearing from you. Until then, keep the blue side up.